All right, y'all, my name is Anna. If we have not met, I get to lead this amazing church alongside my amazing husband and alongside an amazing group of dream teamers. Dream teamers, make some noise. Yeah, man, it's been so good to see just what God is doing in this house. We're only 5 weeks in. 6 weeks in, and it has been so amazing just to see people who are coming and just experiencing freedom, new faces, and it's been amazing to see the trajectory that God has brought us through just from the beginning, right? And God's faithfulness has been present every single step of the way, and so it's been so amazing. Last week, y'all, we wrapped up a series called Bricklayers, where we got to learn about the life of Nehemiah as a man of God, also as a leader. And, you know, I always say, if God is writing about anything or anybody, y'all better take some notes. So, you know, we're going to be speaking Jesus and preaching the word of God today. So y'all take some notes. We like to say here at Venture, we don't want to just be hearers of the word. We want to be doers of the word. And the only way we know what to do is when you know what to do. If you remember what to do. And, you know, I'm just so you know, you're only going to remember about 25% of what I say within the next hour. But by the time that hour passes, it's going to be about 50% less of that. And y'all, in a week, you're going to remember nothing. That's why it's important to write things down, right? So you want to remember what it is what is God telling you? What is he prompting you? Maybe he's like, oh man, that was for me. It's probably not even words that I'm saying. It's just how he's speaking to your heart. And so you want to write those things down. And that's just, y'all, that 25%. 50%, that's if you're the average person. If y'all are below average, get your voice recorder on and attach that to your notes. You can go back to the YouTube and rewatch anything that you might need to. I know sometimes I catch myself doing that and just digging deeper into the word. Today though, we're gonna start a new message. As Pastor Matt talked about it when he did the welcome. It is titled A Better Way. And I'm going to warn you as of now that through today's message, I'm going to pose a problem, and we're not going to get to a solution by the time that the message is over. If you got a little bit of anxiety, like, what do you mean we're not going to wrap up the message? And we're going to wrap up the message today. We're just not going to give you a solution. Because the reality of it is most of our life's problems aren't fixed in 30 minutes. You know, and the reality is most of the things that we're dealing with, that God has been dealing with, sometimes it's a lifetime journey. You know, and so I'm going to just encourage you to stick it out over these next few weeks of this series so that you're able to have resolve, that God is able to speak to you clearly, and that you're able to do exactly what God is prompting you and how he's prompting you to do it. And so I just want to warn you that, you know, if you're feeling a little bit of frustration when you leave here, or maybe you're feeling a little grimy, it's okay. It's okay. We're going to grow together through that grime. Okay, so I'm going to start by asking a question that is probably not a common question to be asked here at church, and that's okay because we venture and we're not your typical church. And I'm going to just ask a question that if we're all honest, it's probably a question that we've all have asked in one way or another. Maybe not in those exact words, but maybe, you know, maybe thought it, felt it. And so when you're ready for me to ask that, just go ahead and say, hit me with it. All right. Do you ever feel like Christianity isn't working? You know, maybe somebody invited you to church, like, I don't know about the whole Christianity thing. I don't even believe it's going to work. Like, do you know my life? You know, or you're already going through the motions and you're feeling like, yeah, I don't know. You know, actually, I'm feeling a little burnt out with the busyness of church. Maybe you haven't said it, but you've thought it in some words. Or maybe for you, it's, God, why aren't you answering my prayers? You haven't really said it, and maybe what you're saying actually sounds like, no, I'm good. I'm staying faithful. God's, you know, on time. You know, he is always good. But inside, you're like, God, why aren't you answering my prayers? This Christianity thing is not working out, at least not for this girl. If we're honest, we've thought about that in one way or another. Maybe it's, and it could look like different ways for different people. Maybe it's like that young boy growing up or that young girl growing up in church, being a part of things, involved in all things. But really when they begin to become aware, they see that the God that is talked about and that they're learning about and so excited and singing about is not quite the God that they're seeing in other people. Or maybe that young boy or girl who's attending church and they're, all about it, but they become aware that the same God that they're hearing about, excited about, singing about, is not the God that they're seeing in their parents' marriage. And so now they're like, I don't know, this Christianity thing really work? Maybe you're married. Maybe you have some things before God that you're pursuing as a couple, or, maybe you're in a relationship and you're chasing after this Christianity thing and, this God walk thing, and you're faithful and you're serving, and, maybe one of you loses a job. Now there's strain in the marriage, and maybe there's strain in your walk with Christ, gets shaken a little bit. God, is this Christianity thing really working? It might not be so big, or it might not feel as bad for some people. Maybe for you, it doesn't feel that bad. Maybe, you're walking, you're being faithful, you come to church, you might even serve every once in a while. You have the YouVersion app and, check off a plan every once in a while. Every once in a while, you even might complete one. And, you have a job, it's well paid. You can even take a vacay every once in a while. But the reality of it is, when you really get down to your heart, you're just not that happy. Is Christianity really working? If you're hurting, if you're tired, if you're discouraged, if you're feeling, a little bit of anxiety or just frustration, maybe you're feeling like your faith is actually plateauing, but you just seem real excited and, you're fooling a whole lot of people. Maybe you're just going through the motions. I hope that the words of Jesus in John chapter 14 would encourage you. And I'm going to read the Message version for this verse. And you can go there or write it down, John 14. And I'm reading verses 1 through 6. And just so you know, I've never heard the Bible read that way. I read kind of like a story, more like novela. Your girl still watches one every once in a while. It says, don't let this throw you. You trust God, don't you? Trust me, there's plenty of room for you in my Father's home. If that weren't so, this is Jesus talking, would I have told you that I am on my way to get a room ready for you? And if I'm on my way to get a room ready, I'll come back and get you so you can live with me. And you already know the road. Some verses say the way. You already know the way I'm taking. And Thomas is one of these disciples. Maybe it's like you, or that you have that friend who just says what everybody else is thinking. Jesus is talking to a few of the disciples, and he's like, you already know the way. And all the disciples are like, yeah, we know the way. But they're looking at each other like, do you know the way? I have no idea. And Thomas is like, hold up, I'll ask it. Jesus, I have no idea where you're going. He says, Master, we have no idea where you're going. How do you expect us to know the road? Jesus said, I am the road, or the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father apart from me. Let's pray. Father, thank you so much for being who you are, for being good and kind and faithful. God, that we can come to you with our questions, even as taboo as they may seem, God, that we can come to you with our mess, our doubts, our frustrations, and the fact that you are not bothered or offended by our mess. God, thank you. Thank you for meeting us right here and now. Father, I pray that it would be your words that are spoken. And Father, I stand behind you. Would you lead the way? Father, allow us to hear your words in a new way. But above that, that you would just give us a hunger to go beyond hearing and doing and living your word, God. I thank you for what you're going to do. I know that you're already ahead of it. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, how many of you know that the way matters, right? If you're married, been married, if you just know anybody, the way matters, right? Like you can say, are you going to wear that tonight? Or are you going to wear that tonight. Right? The way matters. You can say a fact and you can say the truth, but the way that you say it, it matters. Right? And me, I'm Latina. I talk with my hands and I talk loud for no apparent reason at all sometimes. And if I am not intentional, careful, and haven't had Jesus that day, it will feel like I'm ready to brawl. And Matthew, earlier in our marriage, I had to be really intentional. That really had to be a prayer. Like, I'm going to do literally 40 days in the Word today. So all you can do, Jesus, is work on my mouth. I'm not even joking. I would take my lunch. I was teaching at the time. I would take my lunch and I would do 40 days in the Word just so he would work on my mouth. It's still a work in progress, so don't judge. But that's a journey, right? That's just my life with Jesus. But one thing I did not want to be with was that girl be like, well, that is how he met me, and that is who I am, and that is how Jesus made me, so like that is it. That's all you get. No, because the Word of God says love is first patient. First description of love. And then love is kind, right? It's all right. We can all be a work in progress together, right? And so Matthew would be like, why are you yelling? Be like, boy, this is being nice. The way matters. The way matters. And we often hear, when we hear the way, the truth, and the life, right? And we all know that. No one comes to the Father except that we know that we can recite it. And we often hear about the truth, and we like the truth because the truth sets us free. And that's good, right? Truth is good. But we have to know the way sometimes to be able to get to that truth. We often like the promises, like, ooh, he's going to provide all things. This is all things come together. But we forget what says before, and we often don't like the verse that goes after, right? We like what we like, and we don't often like the way to get there. If you use Waze, I use Waze to get everywhere. I took Sam one time. I took her from her house over to the studio one time, and she's like, "Are you using Waze to get to the studio?" Like, we're in town, girl. I was like, "Girl, I use Waze to get everywhere. I can't get anywhere twice." And here's my thing. I look at it, and I don't like the way it's taking me because it says 5 minutes, and I'm like, "Is there one that says 4?" Reroute. And I'm like, we don't often like the way that that anything takes us, right? We want sometimes our way. So today we're going to talk about the way. We're going to talk about the way. We'll talk some truth for sure. We're going to talk about the way. And, I think today what I want us to focus on really is just truth. I said earlier in the message that we're probably not going to get to an answer today, and that's okay. Our intention here at Venture is really just to align our hearts to Jesus. God's going to do the rest of it. And so, today we're going to talk about the way. And so as I was studying, one of the things that, I was reading and studying was that the first Christians actually were not called Christians. They weren't called like Jesus freaks or like Bible thumpers or anything. They were actually called people of the way. And in Ephesians, we actually see it quite a few times. We see it throughout the scriptures. But one thing that's so amazing about them is, one of the things you don't hear anything about like, well, y'all, who's the people of the way? We're going to have a meeting today, and we're going to talk about what are we for and what are we against? What do we like and thou shalt not what? What's going to be our list? No. They didn't focus on theology, and they didn't focus on morals. They focused on living and loving like Jesus. And here's the thing. If we can even just start with that foundation, to live and love like Jesus, man, what a difference, because we can see here, right, people of the way as Christians, right, Jesus followers, if we look at the life of Jesus and if we look at our life and parallel it, there's really no comparison. And we're going to keep it real, right? And I have permission to keep it 100. Here's the thing. Jesus, he was full of joy. Us people, your girl right here, sometimes I am just full of stress, sweating up a storm for no reason. Got nowhere to go. Kids are actually taking a nap, and I'm like, whew, I don't know why I'm stressed out right now, but my heart rate's at like 220. Jesus didn't worry. Y'all, we are known as the most anxious generation in history. He wasn't freaking out about politics. We're angry at the person they're just posting something. You probably have no idea what they're even posting. And it's causing division. That was not the way of Jesus. See, we worry about what we don't have, what we might have, how we might get it. And see, Jesus, the way of Jesus, he actually says, worry about nothing. Jesus, man, he stopped for people. We are often like, oh man, I hope someone else says yes. Hope someone else serves. Hope someone else goes into kids. Hope someone else pulls over for that person who's pushing their car all by themselves. Right? Because we ain't got time for that. Jesus took his time and he was consumed with having fellowship with his Father regardless of what he was doing. And me, sometimes I can't pray for 3 minutes before I'm like, ooh, I got an alert. Hold up, Jesus. You know, many of us, even between the time I started speaking to right now, we have already been distracted by something. We're like smiling. Oh, I heard a ding. She said calendar. Did I forget to add something? We're distracted. We're consumed. You know, and if just imagine, you know, Jesus was like us. Right? It might sound funny, but, you know, like, oof, I just healed 4 people. Dang, those people are needy. Can't they just be content? I'm tired, man. It's been a day. I'll pop one open because it's been a long day. Just imagine scrolling through Instagram. How'd JTB get that many followers? He didn't even heal anybody. They just know him because he was standing next to me. John the Baptist. How'd JTB get that many followers? Can you just imagine? And we laugh, right? But who is that sometimes? Right? So, yeah, okay. I said I was going to keep it real. I always keep it real. Whatever. I have a mess sometimes, and it's all good. God's kind. We're overwhelmed so many times. I feel overwhelmed sometimes. I ain't got nowhere to go. I will tell Matthew, like, why are you going so slow? We're going home. We're driving in our neighborhood. I'm like, I know if you just drove just a little bit faster, we could get home a little bit faster, right? I posted this thing on Instagram because there was a joke going around among some of our friends. If you know me long enough, you will know. Well, now you know. We're all friends now. There is like full of gas tank people and empty gas tank people. Who are my full of gas tank people? Okay, who's my empty? Okay, oh, y'all more honest than first service. Okay, empty, right? Full, Matthew's full, I'm empty. I said, well, you know, I have an empty tank, but girl, it's full of life. So, Jesus, you take the wheel and the gas tank because I might not make it to the next stop. But I can't handle standing there, now has a lever for us impatient people, to fill up my gas tank. It takes forever. I'm like, I got places to be. Sometimes I don't. But I'm like, $25. I don't even know how much a gas tank is, guys. I know they were laughing at me because Matthew's like, gas is so expensive. I was like, really? I only put like $10. It's really not that expensive. He's like, that's the problem. But see, here's the thing. We're rushing, right? Rushing to get to the next, rushing in life, rushing to do, rushing only to be people we don't even like. Let's be honest. You know, Matthew's talked about it a lot. We love marriage counseling. If you're married, you better get you some because it'll save your marriage even when you don't even realize it, right? And sometimes we got nothing to say. We're just like, what are we going to talk about? I don't know. Let's just go sit with them. Accountability, right? There's something beautiful in accountability. And we sat, we were talking, so excited, like, we're doing all these things. We just got a building and blah, blah, blah. We didn't even realize how much of a place of stress we were operating out of. And the thing is, it's not the intention, it's not the work, it's none of those things. Like, the reality of it is, if you don't put, like, a pause button sometimes on all things, everything and anything will deteriorate. Unless you're God, everything and anything will deteriorate. Leave the batteries long on enough. If you hit the on button, leave it that way, it's going to die. It's going to deteriorate. Keep running the car keep going. Don't put gas, just keep going. Deteriorate over time, right? So Matthew and I put a lot of intention in scheduling. You'll often hear us like, let me check our schedule first. I'm going to check, make sure it's good with Matthew, and we'll check. Do we always win at it? No, but that's our intention. It's a habit that we have put in place because we want to operate out of a place of peace, to be able to enjoy the things that we take on. And are we rushing sometimes? Yes. We feel like the Home Alone family when they're rushing on vacation, like, whoo, passing each other up, like, what else? I forgot the bottle. Girl, right? But our habits for our life are to be able to respect each other's time, to enjoy the things that we do, and be able to fit in the things that matter into our life. And so we have made that a habit. And I love this quote by James Clear. He's the author of many books, and one of the books I love is called Atomic Habits. It says, if you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your habits. So here's, for example, I want an amazing marriage, and here is our vision board for our marriage. And when I get a man, like, this is what it's going to all look like. We're going to have all these traditions, and we're going to do all these things. But if you don't do what it takes to get there, there's nothing that's going to look different than where you're at right now. Oh, I want to start. Go ahead. Yeah, I'm going to start a business. It maybe means you need to have some mentors because you've never had a business before. And maybe you got to talk. Oh, I got this. YouTube University. You might need to ask some questions. You might need to save some money, right? You might need to do some check-ins with mentors every once in a while. See how other people are doing it so that you can be successful or more. But if you don't put nothing in place, you are never going to get to that vision that you have. You have to instill habits that align to that goal and that vision. You want the spiritual life to look a little bit different. You got some habits to take care so that you can actually get there. We often want that truth. We want what that looks like, but we don't want the way to get there. And there's been a few times that I'm sure for many of you that have caused you to pause and be like, let me rethink how I'm doing things in life. And you could either reroute or keep going the same. Usually have two options. And so there was a moment where we had to pause in our marriage and ministry and just life in general. Like, how are we doing things? There was a time when we had to pause services for ventures that we can go into this building and remodel. And I remember thinking, like, oh, man, that's a long time we're going to pause for. I mean, for doing weekly things, 4 weeks, 5 weeks seemed like a really long, I don't even know if it was that long, but it seemed like a long time for me. I thought, like, I'm going to have so much time. Oh, Matthew's going to, redo the backyard, and I have just gut the garage, just start doing all these things. I had a list of things. We can take a vacation. Like, I'm going to have so much time in my hands. What am I going to do with myself? Y'all, we got the keys, and we didn't have a minute to breathe. It did not look like what I had envisioned in my mind. I was like, what? There's not a whole lot to do in this place. Except into this place, we would still be panting if we allowed ourselves to. There's always something to do. But I remember thinking, and Matthew just took on a lot. He became a contractor, never been a contractor in his life. And I'm thinking, like, okay, let's do this. We're going to do this together. And then eventually it was like, where's Matthew? He's like, babe, I didn't realize I love painting so much. I actually love paint. It's therapeutic. I'm like, it ain't therapeutic at home. I got 4 kids who are driving me up the wall. Where are you? And he's like, I can put in my earplugs and just be with a father. I mean, you can be a father at home. And I'm just thinking, like, man, pause. Hey, Matthew, if this is what it's like, I don't know if I want it. Is this Christianity thing really working? As we were talking to just, accountability people, that's one thing that's awesome about it is you can go back and you can filter thoughts and what you're doing. And, how's that working? Sometimes you don't even realize it. But one thing we realized is it wasn't the work. It was the way we were doing things. It wasn't the intention. It was the way we were doing things. It wasn't the people, although some people are just way capital E, capital G people. It's extra grace if you haven't been here long enough. We'll put that aside. God loves them anyway, right? But it wasn't the people. It was the way that we were doing things. The way matters. Here's the thing. Many of us, we just think that if we're just doing like the right motions, it feels healthy. It looks healthy. This must be how I should feel because I'm doing what I think I'm supposed to be doing. That's the beautiful thing about accountability and communities. You can align to others as they align you to Jesus, right? And many of us have seen this analogy play out before. Where, obviously there's been stuff poured into here because I can pour things out of here. And we must think like, right, this is healthy, right? There's been pouring in, so I can pour out. As long as I keep pouring in, I got stuff to pour out. And we think that's the healthy cycle. Well, what happens if what we're pouring in is not what we're supposed to be pouring in? Right? Like, but I'm spending time at church. Pouring in, right? I'm pouring in, I can be pouring out. But I picked up this like amazing self-help book. I'm going to pour into myself so I can pour out like great things and caption like amazing things on Instagram. And then I can pour it out to other people. Right? But here's the reality. We're taking in a lot of things, a lot of one-liners, and some of us have really just become Instagram disciples. And we're pouring out, right? We're pouring out. And you're like, but look, I got all these people I'm pouring out to, all these people. The Jesus way, right? Pouring out. It must be the healthy cycle. But here's what we don't realize. Some people and some things we're not meant to pour out to. Let's look at Jesus, right? Jesus' way. We even see it himself. Luke chapter 4, he heals a fever from someone. Bam, healed. He delivers a demon-possessed person. Bam, healed. And then there's more people. He's like, I got my grandma, my tios, my cousins, Jesus. Like, right, you're Jesus. And so you're supposed to like be healing people. That's your thing. You're a believer, right? You're supposed to love everybody and do all things, right? And so, nope, Jesus is like, peace. And we think like, where does that say? Luke chapter 4, look it up. Here's the thing. Here's what he says. I have to go spread the message because that is what I have been sent to do. He knew he didn't even have to be present to heal people. But here's the thing. If we are not aligned to God, how do you hear his voice for him to say, nope, that is not meant for you? How? Some of us have not been spending time with God because we're in all these other books and all these Instagram. But look, it's all I'm following all the pastors. Must be good, right? I have Matthew's like, when are you going to stop ordering books? I don't know. We're pouring in, right? But we don't realize not all of it is meant for us. And you don't know that unless you spend time with God so you can hear his voice and recognize his voice among the noise and the chaos of everything else. See, maybe for you it's your schedule, maybe for you it's your pace, it's your anxiety, maybe it's your fears, the chase after you want, the chase after the plan that you have. I don't know what it is, but something is keeping you from spending intentional, still, face-to-face time with your Father. And I want us to hear something because again, we're consumed by a lot. We must be so careful that we don't get used to the chaos, that we are not so used to that fast-paced life because it feels, I'm so busy. Someone said one time, we should probably start responding like, how sad. You must not be living. Something is keeping us from that still face-to-face time with God. And we must be careful that chaos that we have become used to sometimes doesn't keep us from really grasping and understanding that peace and a heart and a life aligned with God doesn't keep us from thinking that that's boring. Because often we become addicted to saying we're busy. We become addicted to having more on our plates. Well, I got a free schedule today. What am I going to do this morning? How about Jesus first? How about a date night with your husband? How about intentional time with kids? Right? How about sometimes you just need to be quiet and rest? Because you're tired and you're looking at, not sometimes in our face, but our heart, the way we talk, right? The way we are with people. I want us to go to Hebrews 10, verse 36. When you're there, say, I'm there. You know, if you don't have a Bible, can I just tell you, feel free to grab one at Connection Center. We want you to have one and have a tangible thing to be writing things on. You can use the Bible app, too. I just happen to be old school, I like to write on my Bible and read from it. So here's Hebrews 10, verse 36. It says, this is the NIV version, you need to preserve so that when you have done the will of God, you will receive what he has promised. If you know me, if you've ever done a Bible study with me, I am a word nerd. I will break down like every word. And I want us to pay attention to this in this version. It says, you need, not I encourage you, if you think so, you need to preserve. And here's small words, but they mean so much. So that when you have done the will of God, you will, not might, you will receive what he has promised. I love the Message version. It says, so don't throw it all away now. You were sure of yourselves then. It's still a sure thing. Remember when you came to Jesus and you're so excited and full of hope, maybe broken, but full of hope? It says, but you need to stick it out, staying with God's plan, so you'll be there for the promised completion. Yeah, okay, so I obviously have an issue with gas. And it didn't end with the last story. So, confession time. I was pumping gas many years ago. And finished and left. And then I started getting these like weird stares. And I was like, what are they staring at? Girl, this smells so good. Now, I was like, what are they staring at? And I looked in my mirror and realized, the gas pump is still attached to my car, but I'm not at the gas pump anymore. I am down the road. So I did what anybody with class would do. I just turned around and very nicely just put the pump back in. Sorry, just left. But here's the thing. Some of us are such in a rush. We are such in a hurry that we don't realize like what we become unattached from. We don't realize what we've unplugged from. We're going so fast. We're just going. And we think that it's not going to make much of a difference. Right? Levi, I have 1-year-old. And I finally found a plant I can keep alive. Because most people can. If you have a succulent, it would take like a lot for you to kill it, right? Well, it's actually much easier than I thought. Here's Levi, I have a 1-year-old, and he has a thing with him, and he'll literally just pull, there's a planter that's kind of at his eye level, and he literally just goes like a carrot, pulls it out, and just takes a bite, like if it was a carrot, and he'll eat it. And sometimes he's done and whatever, or it just kind of just plops it right back on top of the planter, and sometimes we just find them randomly. But here's the thing: even a succulent, even any tree, really, any plant, you leave it unplanted long enough, it's going to die. Anything. And sometimes we don't realize that about our lives. I often hear, and you probably have heard this, maybe you've even said it, like, I don't really need Jesus. I don't really need this whole community and church thing. I'm like, look at me. I'm good. Business is thriving. I can't even make it sometimes because I'm just so busy. Marriage is good. Kids are good. I'm going to be really honest. It is such an illusion. Even one of the easiest plants to take care of, leave it unplanted. Here's one thing I realized, that how awesome is God? Succulents, if you cut them, even if they've been implanted for a while, inside, they'll still look really fresh on the inside because they try to preserve as much moisture and water so that when they are implanted, when they come across people like Levi, they'll still be able to live for a little bit longer and give enough time to get replanted. But it doesn't even matter. Most unplanted trees, even though unplanted, succulents can last about a day and they start getting infested with insects, right? And trees, they don't last very long. Even uprooted trees, they don't immediately show that they're dying. And for us, we're like, I'm good. But see, in time, it becomes damage. And the word becomes means to be, to undergo a type of a change, to come to be. It wasn't what was original or intended for that, but it becomes and it undergoes change. And see, sometimes we will become damaged. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. The damage will be revealed over time. We often find just ourselves just way too busy to even analyze that. We become too busy to even do a heart check, a soul check. We will check for everybody else. Oh, did you see how she talked to him? They must not be praying together. She didn't even smile. She must not have had Jesus this week. Oh, hasn't been here in a while. Definitely has been cutting ties with Jesus. We start just analyzing everybody else, but if we just got to here, we would be able to see, God, what is it that you're wanting me to grow in? What do I need to cut off that doesn't align with your heart? God, can I just start recognizing what your voice sounds like? We're often so much more watchful of, all things, social media than our own soul. But that's culture, right? Culture tells us, just keep going, keep doing, just keep going, keep adding to your plate, keep going, just keep doing. All just run, run, run. I want us to listen to what the Word of God says about the way that appears to be. It says, there is a way in Proverbs 14:12. There is a way that appears to be right, but in the end, it leads to death. Right? You might be like, oof, but God, right? He is so good. Matthew 11:28. You go there with me. I'm going to read out of the NIV version. It says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Look at what the Message version says. Are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? Come to me, get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. See, often we're like, yeah, I knew that verse. So we have to go from hearing it, knowing it, to believing it, to start stepping into it and actually doing that. And here, I want you to see what a picture of a yoke looks like, because some of us are like, what is that? And see, those two holes that are there are meant for like an animal's head to go through so they would be able to walk together. Like, we're not animals. Nope, that's just, he used parables and examples to take it up with the messenger. But this is what it was. They used a yoke so two animals would be able to walk together, same pace, carrying an even load, no one ahead of the other. Because how many of us know, like, some of us are just more impatient than others and like, oh, that's a good view. And others are like, yo, I'm trying to get over there. Right? And this is what he's saying. I want to walk with you, aligned with you, step by step. Oh, you're getting a little too fast. Now our burden is uneven. We're about to drop some things. It's about to feel heavier on your end. But see, some of us, we're aligned, and then we're like, oh, why are you turning that way? My man's on that side, Jesus. Trying to steer it. Now it feels heavier, right? Because you're trying to go a different way that wasn't intended for you. We're walking aligned, and I'm trying to speed up. Jesus, you're a little too slow. My bills are due in a week. You don't think he knows that? He says, just wait. You're going to miss what I have for you when you're going so fast. Someone was about to bless you. Someone was about to offer you a job. I don't know what it looks like for you. But see, you weren't meant to be joined with some of the things that were joined. Culture. To be joined with religion. To be so busy. You know, he's calling us to be joined and aligned with him. If you're tired of the same arguments, if you're tired of even the anger that you're feeling, if you're tired of feeling like you're not doing enough, maybe you're just tired with the rhythms of your life, maybe you're just tired. Can I tell you, there's a better way? And see, Jesus is inviting us right now to a better way. He is calling us to be joined with him. Not just to believe his truth, but to live his way. And he's inviting us now, and maybe you're thinking like, well, like what now? Like, it sounds like we're kind of wrapping up, and I'm not feeling so great. That's okay. We can grow through this grind that God is calling us into right now. You know, I told you I wasn't going to give you a quick fix today. Over the next few weeks, I want you to just be committed, stay in line. You know, we're going to be learning about those, unhurried rhythms of grace and what it looks like to have an unbroken relationship like Jesus had with his Father. You know, we're going to learn about what it looks like to have an uncluttered pursuit of God. Doesn't that sound even good? Like, how do you even do that? How to have undivided attention, to be able to be present in the moment. Can we have that? When we can have that with Jesus, just imagine how everything will fall into place for your life. You don't have to take on the world. You don't have to fill up your schedule with business, because, man, if you're aligned to him, it says he will provide you with everything else. So I just want to invite you today, when you're like, well, what now? What's the challenge? Just come to Jesus. Bring your heavy heart. Bring your tired heart. Bring your burdens, those unanswered prayers you've been frustrated about. Bring it all. Just bring it to Jesus. Just come to Jesus. That's your assignment today. Just come to Jesus.